Welcome back to the Warrior Servant Leader podcast. Today is going to be fun. Two Paddies walk into a podcast studio. I mean, what are you going to expect? But a lot of Irish uh, uh, charms going to be going on here. And today we got Patrick O'Donnell. So that's why I said two Paddies. So Pat is retired cop, supervised various special units and major crimes, felony investigations. He's the best selling author of 10 books, including his newest thriller, The Good Collar. I don't know, Pat, you're so busy. He hosts the Popular Cops and Writers podcast, where he interviews state, local, and federal law enforcement members, celebrities, and writers who are making a splash in the publishing world. And that's kind of how Pat and I hooked up. I was on his show a little while ago. Here's one of the fascinating things about Pat is he runs an 8,200 member Facebook group for crime writers with members from all over the globe, and was recently featured on page one of the Wall Street Journal. And then finally, dude, you must not sleep because you also host a true crime television documentaries and has consulted with crime writers for their books and screenplays. Pat, welcome to the show. We're going to have a blast here. I wish it wasn't early in the morning because I'd have a Guinness instead of a coffee going, and uh, and then we could tell some pretty good stories.
Well,
So
thank you, Pat. Thank you for having me on your show.
yeah, this is going to be fun.
It will.
8,200 member Facebook group. I mean, what's the story behind that?
Well, it's funny. I wrote a couple of different books under different pen names. I was still a police sergeant in the city of Milwaukee. And you would know as well, any kind of off duty employment, you have to be approved through the chief of police. It has to get approved.
Yep.
So with our department, that's called a matter of. It's more or less a memo in the matter of me, wanting to write books. And I know it would be a rubber stamp no, because I know he wouldn't understand it. So, being the enterprising sergeant that I was, I'm like, well, I'll write them under pen names. And it's like, okay. Plus, I'm getting my feet. I'm dipping my toes in the water of writing books. I never thought I'd be writing books ever. You know, I did go to college. I got kicked out twice. I'm not the best student. I did graduate, thank God. There is a higher power because I don't know how I graduated, but I did. And
They were
what
tired of you
happened?
hanging around all the time.
Yeah, probably. They're like,
And
all
just
right, well,
just graduate him.
give me
Yeah.
my C and let me get out of here for God's sakes. So what happened was you know, back when I first started in police work, it was really competitive. It was very competitive. I remember taking the written test, and there was about 2,500, 3,000 people at the written test, and there'd be like two or three more written tests that day. They had to cycle them.
Wow.
And that's for like 300 jobs or 400 jobs. So
Wow.
it was super competitive. I was on the waiting list for Milwaukee for 4 years.
Wow.
So I had to pay the rent. I was freshly armed with a bachelor's degree in sociology, and my minor was criminal justice. So, I was good to go to be a restaurant manager, a bartender. I sold cars. And what happened was, I sold cars for 4 years among all the other stuff that I did before I became a cop. And somebody said, you should really write a book about that, because I help people buy cars forever. I still do, like a family or, family, friends,
Yeah.
whatever. They'd be sitting at a dealership, or they're like, please, can you come with me? I'll buy you dinner. And I'm like, or a Guinness. And I'm like, sure, why not? So what happened was somebody, and I don't know who it was, I should thank them, or maybe I shouldn't thank them, because a lot of what's left of my hair is gray, I think, because of it. And what happened was, you should really write a book about how to buy a car, because you know how to do it. You're on the other side of the desk. And I'm like, yeah, you're right. So it was a glorified PDF. I had a traditional publishing deal all lined up, and it went south like literally overnight,
Oh.
because one of my friends was good friends with this person that was going to pitch it to their agent in New York, and they got into a big fight, and she's like, no, I already threw that in the garbage. F you. I'm like, great. Then I found out about self-publishing, and I'm like,
Hmm.
oh, I can do this myself.
Yeah.
So I did, and like it was a glorified PDF, but it actually sold. And it wasn't just my mom or friends or whoever. Absolute strangers were paying money for my work, which was shocking to me. And I'm like, it was a light bulb moment. And
Yeah.
it's like, okay, I need a good editor because I'm dyslexic. Yeah, I look at letters and numbers and it gets all jumbled around, and I'm not a great writer. I'll be the first one to admit it. Thank God for Grammarly and
Yeah.
all this other software that, it's like, no, this is what it should be. Oh, okay, sounds good. So fast forward, I wrote a few books, and I started going to writers conferences, and I didn't write anything policey, no police stuff. I wanted to keep that separate, but inevitably it will catch up to you. You know
Yeah.
as well as I do, in any kind of social situation, people are going to figure out you were a cop at one point in time, or you still are. I still was. So I'm at a writers conference in Vegas, and I had people coming up to me and they're like, hey, would my character need a search warrant? Could my character kick that door down, et cetera, et cetera. And I'm just like, yeah, no problem. And they were very respectful, very nice people. They just wanted to get their facts straight.
Yeah.
And what happened was somebody at the conference that I became friends with that was a lot further along in their writing journey, that was very successful. It's like, you're writing the wrong books. You should be writing books about cop stuff. That's what you know. And I'm like, he said, tell you what, write some books about police procedure for writers, specifically for writers. And I'm like, So I wrote two books. It was the Cops and Writers books. That's where it all started. And it's,
Wow.
Cops and Writers from the academy to the street, Cops and Writers, crime scenes and investigations. And these were, I watered it down for the civilians to, okay, this is what it's like in the academy. This was, 10 codes. These are C codes. These, this is the stuff we had to learn, blah, blah. I made it very rudimentary, very basic. And the crime scenes and investigations, I upped it up a little bit. It's like, okay, there's a dead guy on the sidewalk. Who does what? You know, that kind of
Yeah.
stuff.
Yeah.
And that I'm like, okay, I got to promote these books. So I started a Facebook group, Cops and Writers. I kept everything Cops and Writers. So I start this Facebook group. It was my editor and like two buddies. That was it. And I didn't think it would go any further at all. Now there's, I think, close to 8,500 people in that group. I've got 5 admins that help me out, that monitor everything so everybody, behaves, because,
Yeah.
Facebook is a landmine. It's a minefield, not a land. Yeah, there's landmines in there. It's a minefield of scammers and people trying to take your money, and preying on people's weaknesses, I guess is the best way to put it. Hey, I'll make you a $1 million author, blah 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 blah. No, you won't. You'll take their money and you'll run, is what you're going
Yep.
to do. So
Yep.
I vet it very, very carefully. I try to make sure there's no shenanigans going on in there. And before I knew it, it just started growing legs. And I'm like, what the heck? This is, like I said, now it's like 8,500 people. And initially it was just to promote these 2 books. That's the only reason why I did it. But like, as the title of your podcast, you're being of service, being a servant, there's nothing better than that. You know, all that happens is good things when you serve others. I'm a huge believer in that. And that's what we do. I don't charge. And I don't know, there's cops literally from all over the world. I have cops from Australia, England, Canada. I mean, all over.
Yeah.
And they offer advice when somebody say, hey, my character, London, 2010 homicide scene, who's going to do blah, blah, blah. So I'm going to have one of my British coppers is going to chime in and say, okay, this is what's going to happen.
Yeah. Yeah.
So it just grew legs. And then before I know it, I was at the gym. I was looking at my emails real quick. I had an email pop up and it's like Jeffrey Trattenberg, Wall Street Journal. And I'm just like, more junk. God, I'm so sick of this. So I deleted it, and I got a phone call while I was at the gym. and it said New York, the caller ID, and I'm like, all right, well, it's hopefully it's not somebody talking about the tax lien that I don't have, or the student loan repaying that I don't have, and I'm like, or the car warranty that I don't care about, it's like, okay. So he said, "Hey, this is Jeff, and I'm a reporter for the Wall Street Journal. You got a minute?" And I'm like, "Are you full of malarkey here? What's going on?" And
Yeah,
he said, "No,
yeah,
really, I am." And I'm just like, and I just got the vibe. I'm like, "No, this guy's real."
yeah,
So he talked to me like for over an hour.
yeah.
He interviewed me on the spot. Then we set up another interview, and before I know it, I'm on the weekend edition of the Wall Street Journal front page. It was towards the bottom. There was a lot more important stuff going on in the world than little old me, but it was at the very bottom. There was like a couple of paragraphs, and then there was like a full story with pictures and everything, like maybe 2 or 3 pages in,
Wow.
and knocked me over with a feather. I'm just like, I never thought that was going to happen. You kidding me?
Wow, that's crazy. So, um, you started getting into the fiction police novels,
Hmm.
and
Yes.
under still under a pen name, or
No,
is,
I after I retired, I went full blown, just under my name. And yeah, I just went under my name once I was close to retirement, and obviously after, because I don't have to ask permission from anybody. I can just do it. I was picked up by a hybrid publisher, Michael Anderley, LMBPN. I wrote 4 books with him. I did all the writing, he fronted all the money, and we split the profits. So it was a great deal.
yeah,
And the latest book that was the Brew City Blues series. That's fiction, but based on true stories, that
yeah.
happened to me in the street. But I jazzed them up a bit, etc. And character arcs, plot, all that good stuff. And I would liken that to like Hill Street Blues or Blue Bloods set in Milwaukee.
Okay.
That's what those books were. And then I wrote a book called The Good Collar. And did you ever watch Dexter?
No,
Okay.
no.
The premise of Dexter is
We didn't have cable.
oh, okay. Uh, the premise of Dexter was that you have this serologist, he's a blood spatter expert for Miami PD. He's a
Yeah,
civilian. He
but
has a very dark past.
yeah, a peri psycho.
Yes, and everybody loves him. They think he's this great guy. He brings them donuts every day, and he's a serial killer. He rights all the wrongs. He's a vigilante.
Yeah.
So I thought to myself, what if the police chaplain was a vigilante?
Ooh.
So that's what the Good Collar is. This is the beginning story of how he became what he is. He has a mentor who was like the old police chaplain that everybody loves. Nobody would ever suspect he's going to do something wrong. But
Mm-hmm.
if somebody slips through the cracks of the justice system, he takes care of them. So now he has a pupil, and that's like the main character in my book.
Wow. And so is this going to be a series?
Yes.
Oh, awesome. Awesome. What was the movie series with uh the vigilante? Uh
Well,
he
I
did four
like
or
him.
five of them.
Yeah, that was Charles Bronson, Death
Yeah,
Wish.
Charles Bronson. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I leaned heavy into that as well. And Bruce Willis actually did a remake of that.
Really? I didn't know
Yeah,
that.
it's pretty damn good. He plays a ER doc in Chicago. And of course, his wife and daughter are attacked in their house. One of them makes it, one of them doesn't. They're
Yeah.
brutalized, they're raped, they're beaten, et cetera, et cetera. So he's going after the guys, and of course, the police catch the ones that did it, and of course they get off on a technicality. So of course Bruce Willis is going to be Bruce Willis
Yeah.
and do some Bruce Willis stuff.
Yeah. Oh, wow. So, you started out, and I did the same thing. I've never graduated to actually having, a hybrid or traditional publishing. Um, I used Smashwords
Okay, sure.
was the program, and did Warrior Servant Leader: Life Behind the Badge, and which did well. It was the best new release uh, back in 2015. And then it took me a while because I'm like genetically incapable of mastering technology, and and but once I kind of figured out Smashword, somebody recommended it to me because
Yeah.
they go, even an idiot like you, Pat, could figure it out, and I'm like, oh great, and I didn't realize they were insulting me. I thought it was a compliment, and and then I did the second book in 2018. You and I have to talk offline because I've written a manuscript of my first fiction book,
Oh, nice.
uh, and it's real Irish, not in Ireland, but
Okay.
it's a good Irish Catholic foundation,
Nice.
and it's a police book, uh, and I get into the occult and all sorts of stuff. But anyway, um, how did you? Well, one, what self-publishing platform did you use that other people, if that's how they want to start, could use that? Um, give them some advice.
I used Amazon. You know,
Okay.
85% of books that are sold are on Amazon.
Okay. I
So
published it. I use Smashwords as the uh, to what do you call it? Not formulate, but
format.
to format the book and everything. And then I did use Amazon to actually publish, to do the
Yeah.
publishing side of it.
Yeah. As far as
Uh,
the formatting goes, I have a virtual assistant and she just does it for me. So, I mean, I'm so busy right now that I have two virtual assistants. You know, one lives in Scotland and one lives in Colorado. You know, the one in Colorado does most of my graphic stuff. Uh, I use her, and she was also a professional proofreader and editor. So I used her for my last book, The Good Collar, for that. And then I have a gal in Scotland that is my main virtual assistant. She does my newsletter stuff. That's mostly her job. You know, my
okay.
suggestion is get a newsletter going, offer something of value, even if it's like a something free, something of value, something of something. Get people on a mailing list, get them on an email list, and do a newsletter. It could be once a month, it could be twice a month, it could
Yeah.
be whatever. And that's your part of your platform.
And is your newsletter, is that tied to your website?
Yes.
Or okay.
Yep.
And which one? Or the
I only
podcast?
have one website. It's the Cops and Writers.
Okay. I didn't know
Yep.
if you had one for your podcast.
No, you can go to the podcast. That's like home base. The
Yeah.
copsandwriters.com is home base. And from there, you could get news about like me being on television, any kind of new book releases, any kind of specials that I'm running. And people like to know about like your life. I'm talking about my dog Clark, my granddaughter, whatever,
Yeah.
just it doesn't have to be long, but just stay in touch with your fans.
Okay. Are you on Substack?
I am not. I am not. That's
Oh,
probably the only thing that I'm not.
dude, dude.
I probably
So
should be.
and these are great advice. You're giving the same advice um, that I got when I hired actually a coach to help me stand up my podcast because literally I'm genetically incapable of technology, and uh, and then he got me a guy to build my website for the podcast,
Gotcha.
and I have that, but and I'm on LinkedIn. That
Mhm.
for a platform, my newsletter there is pushing 900 folks, and
That's
you're
good.
absolutely right. That newsletter, it gives you opportunity to build relationships and connect with people, and not be selling, feeling like you're being
Yeah, you don't
pushy
feel
kind of deal.
spammy. Yeah, you don't
Yeah,
have feeling
yeah,
all icky and spammy. Yeah,
yeah. And then of course the that's all free, and there's no
right.
I don't have a paywall or anything like that. And then about 4 months ago, somebody recommended, hey, get a Substack page, And it's same thing. That they don't call it a newsletter. You have a section that's called where you have post longer kind of stuff like a newsletter, and then
Yeah,
there's notes that are shorter kind of things that can be a couple paragraphs or just a couple sentences. And same thing. It's an opportunity, and it's on Substack. It is almost exclusively people who are writers or want to be writers or aren't even trying to sell any. They're not writing books or whatever. They just have the gift of putting words to paper and sharing their wisdom and experiences. And highly recommend Substack. And again, that it's I don't charge for my newsletter. I mean, you can have subscribers that pay,
sure.
or they can opt for free, but they don't get to see necessarily as much as your paid subscribers do.
Do you
But
have do you have a Patreon? Do you have Patreon for your podcast?
no,
Oh, you know what? You're leaving money on the table. It's not going to be a ton, but it's an opportunity. There's different tiers. It's micro donations, I guess is the best way to put it. I think the lowest tier is like $3 a month for mine.
yeah,
You can go up to $20, and you give something of value for that. Like the ones in the middle, I think they get a free book. Whenever I release a book, they get the free e-copy of my
yeah,
book.
yeah,
And if you're a $20 person, you get a 30-minute Zoom with me. So if you're a crime writer, it's worth it for them to
yeah,
get a 30-minute Zoom with me and pick my brain and talk about police stuff.
yeah. Substack has something more. It's called "Buy Me a Coffee,"
Yeah, that's
type
yep,
type thing.
yep.
But no, those are great ideas. So if um, on your website and in your Facebook page, uh, people that are listening to this today that want to, they're aspiring writers or they're already they're writing and maybe publishing on Substack or they have the newsletter, different avenues, but they're stuck or want to start monetizing that gift that they have. How would you work with somebody like that?
It depends
Either.
what their why is. Why are you writing this book? Why are you writing? If is this just like a hobby? And it's a great hobby, and if you
Hmm.
sell a couple of books, it's a bonus. It's beer money. It could be a car payment. It could be your utility bills. It could be all the way up to a mid six figure or seven figure um income.
Revenue. Yeah.
But if you want to, and I know a lot of authors in all of those camps, and the ones that are the most how can I put it? The ones who are the most successful money wise are the ones who write in series. They
Yeah.
find their audience and they clamp onto them and never let go. They're the ones doing newsletters like once or twice a month at least. They're the ones who are machines. They're writing 4 or 5 books a year easily. And they're targeting genres with very, very hungry readers. It's a
Okay.
business.
Yeah.
They're doing paid advertising. They're doing a lot of stuff, but that is a full-time job plus.
Yeah.
Is that what you want? I mean, I helped a friend of mine that his sister's friend was in the Marine Corps in Vietnam, and he wanted to write a book mostly about boot camp,
Hmm.
Vietnam era boot camp, and as a Marine, knowing that
Hmm.
you're going to go over to Vietnam, et cetera, et cetera. And he wrote some
Yeah.
about Vietnam, and it was more or less a legacy thing. So his kids, his grandkids, and their
Hmm.
kids would know what Grandpa was up to in Vietnam.
Yeah.
And he knew that I'm not going to sell a million copies of this. That's not my thing.
All right.
That's not what I mean. Yeah, it'd be great. The chances of it happening are next to zero, if that's all you're going to do. And, he had a pretty basic cover and whatever. And I helped him, through the steps, and he
Yeah.
published it. God bless him. It's great. But if that's your why, then power on, man. That's awesome.
Yeah.
If you want to make real money doing this, you're gonna have to roll up your sleeves and do a lot of work. You're gonna have to work on your craft. You're gonna have to pump out books like you wouldn't. You're gonna have to write. Everybody has their own thing. I'm a binge writer. When I wrote the Bruce City Blues books, I wrote 4 books in like 6, 7 months, and they're
Wow.
all about 60,000 words, 70,000 words. So I mean, I worked my butt off.
Yeah.
I work. And then after that, I was completely burned out. I'm like, oh, I got to come up for air, man. This is nuts. But I know people that write a book a month.
Now, and so you and I both have written from scratch. Uh, and my first book it wasn't actually, I didn't write a book. I had published a ton of 1,200 word articles
Sure, that's
for
and
law
you're exercising.
enforcement. Yeah,
Yeah,
law
that's great,
enforcement
and you're
today.
exercising that part of your brain. That's
Yeah.
awesome.
Well, I ended up having like 30 or 40 articles published, and you're limited to online publishing to basically maybe 1,500 if it was a really
Yeah.
interesting article. But most of everything was 1,200 words or less. And I had them all on my computer, and it's like, man, I really, I wanted to write a lot more about this particular topic. And I'm like, well, I'm just going to take this 1,200 words and now turn that into a 2,500 word chapter or something. And so I didn't have the writer's block kind of thing initially writing, and I know a lot of people struggle with that. And I'm saying all this because what I am afraid of in the writer's arena is people are going to get incredibly lazy and they're going to use Chat GPT or Claude or Grok or whoever, whatever, and give it a command and say, pump out a 60,000 word, fiction book, and here's my characters. Do the character, give it all the right commands, and then hit send. And they literally don't exercise a single molecule of their brain, and they're just pumping out AI stuff.
Well,
And
that's
I don't.
that's that's already happening. That
I
is
know it
happening.
is, but that's scary or it's
It
disappointing.
it is and it isn't. I mean, here's the thing: AI cannot write a book like you or I can right now.
Hmm.
In the future, probably. I mean, and I could see a day where there's going to be a disclaimer on the cover of the book, human generated or AI generated, for the book itself.
What in the you know this in the legal world, that's already happening in the court system.
Oh
That
yes.
the
Oh yeah.
judge,
Yep.
yeah, it's there were two attorneys in in Colorado and Denver. They each got fined $3,000 for it was what do you call it, memorandum opposition to a motion involving the pillow guy, and the lawsuit with the voting machines and all that kind of stuff.
Oh, okay, okay.
And the two attorneys wrote up their stuff, gave it to their law clerks to dress it up, get some citations going, and blah blah blah. And they did, and the lawyers didn't read it, submitted it, and but the judge's law clerk read it, and
Yeah.
there were 30 cases, cited cases in their memorandum that literally did not even exist. That AI, what do they call it, hallucinates, and it's trying to please you, and
Right.
it made up case names and citations
Oh, of course.
and findings that weren't, they didn't even exist, and the judge hammered them. I mean,
Good. You know,
but I'm
the
worried about that from a writer's standpoint. That if you are gifted with that ability to wax eloquently, and whether it's poetry or fiction or nonfiction or whatever it is, that you're going to be kicked to the curb because somebody's taken 2 minutes to give a command to AI, and then sit back, drink their
well,
martini.
the way I see it is the AI, the horses are out of the barn. There's no putting the toothpaste back in the tube. We have to learn how to use it for the betterment of us. Like I said before, I'm dyslexic. I use Grammarly, Pro Writing Aid. These are all
Hmm.
AI tools. They're
Right.
AI generated. I'd be lost without, or my editor would be really mad at me, if they had to edit a manuscript that I gave them to them raw, without any kind of, whatever. That would
And I
be
and, and I get that spell check has been around forever, and
sure.
that's AI. But when AI replaces the human connection
Oh
and
yeah.
all that kind of stuff,
I don't think that's ever going to happen. I mean, I think, like I said before, there's going to be distinction between the two, and
hmm
maybe I could be totally wrong, but I could totally see a day because the last book that I published, The Good Collar, that was coming up on a year. I think it's 9 months. I published it 9 months ago, and one of the things when I was putting it up on Amazon, they're like, "Are any parts of this AI generated?"
hmm
So they're asking. Now, what they're going to do with that information, I have no idea.
hmm
I have no clue. And it's like, okay, and is any parts, so if I use Grammarly or Pro Writing Aid, is should I say that that's AI generated then? There's no parameters as far as like how much of it was AI generated.
yeah,
So that's very vague language right now. And then prove it. Go ahead and prove it. Now, what I've been doing, actually, I started a new project. I started the sequel for The Good Collar, and I got tired, and I'm just like, you know what? I'm gonna put this on the shelf. I was like 4 chapters in. I'm like, I had a scratch that I had to itch, and I had an itch that I had to scratch. Excuse me. What it was is, whenever you're at a party or any social gathering, they find out you're a cop, and what the first couple of questions are, what's the craziest thing you've seen? Or
hmm
did you ever shoot somebody?
yep,
Usually there's some booze flowing when they're asking stuff like that. And I just wanted to write a book of just different police stories. Every chapter is a new story
oh
of
yeah,
what
yeah,
happened to me when I was on the street. Totally nonfiction, and I'm rolling. It's going really fast, and it's really fun writing because I don't have to worry about character arcs. I don't have to worry
right,
about plots. I don't have to worry about any of that stuff. It's raw, unfiltered police stories, and people
yeah,
love police stories.
yeah,
So the reason why I'm saying this is because what I've been doing is I'll write, my paragraphs go anywhere from 900 words to about 1500. That's like really long words. And I'll throw it in a chat GPT. I'm like,
right,
critique this chapter, and it will list out all the stuff they like about it, and then it's like, hey, you should really shorten up that paragraph. And I'm like, yeah, you're right, I did kind of ramble with that paragraph, so I'll
right,
cut a couple of, but I'm not copying and pasting. And it's like, I don't say, write me a book about police experiences in Milwaukee, Wisconsin, 1995 to 2020,
right,
go. It's
yeah,
like,
yeah,
no, that would be garbly goop. That would be
yeah,
garbage. And people are putting that out there. They don't care about the quality. You slap a halfway decent cover on there, and some people are going to buy it, and it's just a number game.
yep.
But yeah, I see both sides of that coin, definitely.
And absolutely on the with the like my first book, the life behind the badge. It was the same thing. It was kind of a autobiographical of stories and stuff. And I had a chapter or have a chapter in it. Uh, what future felons of America, what not to name your child. You know, uh, and and none of the names are. I have over 300 names. So I didn't put it all in the book, but um, I didn't use any urban legends and stuff. But and it was all about you got to have a little bit of sense of humor as a cop, and
Oh, absolutely.
because of the stuff that you see. So I'm all in favor of. I mean, using smash words was really good from a structure standpoint
Hmm.
of how to uh, get the format of it and the all that kind of stuff. And I'm not opposed to. I use Chat GPT. I I'll jump on there and for my newsletter or some of my notes and stuff on Substack, is I'll jump on there and go, hey, what are the top 10 issues facing law enforcement across the country in the last 6 months? And it goes and does its thing, and I'll tell it, give me the citation or resource of where you're getting this info, just to give me ideas
Yeah.
to then sit down and write, as opposed to, hey, chat, give me a 1,200 word note on, and then pick a topic, and then just punch it out. That's not, you can't make it authentic. As I, I don't know. I just have a little bit of a problem with
You're not the only one
how it
with
can
that
be
problem. I'll say that.
how it can be abused and
Yes, absolutely.
push people that are genuinely gifted. That is the talent and the gift that the good Lord gave them, and they're being shoved and kicked to the curb and being minimized for their talent. And I think especially in poetry and songwriting, I could
Oh yeah,
see
musicians.
that.
I could
Yeah,
totally see with music that's going to be very interesting to see what happens with that.
yeah. So, some of what's some of your best, and and this is open mic kind of night. I didn't send you any questions or anything like
That's
that.
fine.
So, uh,
Shoot away.
what, to somebody just breaking into, they want to put, like you said, dip your toes into the writing world. What would be like three absolutes that you would say, hey, keep focused uh, on this so that you don't get overwhelmed and quit?
I would say try to write every day if you
Okay.
can, or have a writing schedule. Block out a moment in your day, and it all depends. Are you working full time? Do you have little kids? It might be when the sun is down. Either you wake up super early, or when everybody's in bed, you might do a half an hour of writing. Say, you know
Mm-hmm.
what? I start out small. It's like, all right, 200 words a day. You can do 200 words a day.
Oh
You can
yeah.
do 100 words a day. You can do that. And what's going to happen is you're going to figure out is like, hey, that wasn't half bad. I bet I can do more than that. And it's going to snowball. You're going to build
Mm-hmm.
momentum. And it's exciting. It's fun. So definitely get yourself into a groove where, hey, I know I can do this. I just have to keep on doing this.
Mm-hmm.
And I interviewed it was Nick Petrie. He's a very well known writer. He's a crime writer, and he said, "Write the bad book so you can write the good book later."
Yeah.
And you know what? That's
Yeah.
great advice because your first book probably isn't going to be winning any awards, or it's
Yeah.
not going to be flying off the shelves, and that's okay. Every time, I mean, I'm working on book 11 right now, and every time I start a new book or go through the process, I learn a ton. I really do. I learn about myself, and I learn, about the craft, etc. If you want to take this seriously, educate yourself. Listen to podcasts that are on, there's a ton of indie writer podcasts out there.
Mm-hmm.
You get some good ideas. That's what I did. That's how I learned about it. I listened to podcasts. So educate yourself, books, podcasts, go to conferences. And most of this is free. Be very careful. Like I said, there's a lot of Shylocks out there that are going to be more than
Mm-hmm.
happy to take your money. They're going to promise you so much. It's disgusting. They are so predatory because there's so many people out there. Most people have a book in them and they
Mm-hmm.
want to get it out. Everybody's got a unique experience. Whatever the case may be, whatever your point of view, you went through, cancer as a single mother of two. You were an alcoholic and you've been sober for 40 years.
Yeah.
The trials and tribulations of that, having Irish Catholic, being raised Irish Catholic,
Yeah.
that is tough. Let me tell you, yeah, that is no picnic sometimes. So everybody's got that in them, and like I said before, develop that habit, educate yourself, don't get taken, don't spend a lot of money. You know, you can you can self-publish fairly inexpensive, but
Mm.
my suggestion to you is if you're going to write fiction, maybe for your first book, hire a developmental editor that'll, or a coach of some type that's not going to just take your money, that, do your due diligence, do your homework, and only spend what you can afford. If you can't afford one, fine, lean into ChatGPT. Pro Writing Aid does that now. They'll do a manuscript critique, Grammarly, all these other things. I would highly, highly, highly suggest getting an editor. I tell you what,
Mm.
man, yeah, no matter how you've got an MFA, you're the superstar of your English class, whatever, you need a different pair of eyes on that is
Yep.
trained on editing. I'm a huge, huge believer in that. There you can go on Fiverr or Upwork and find somebody in your price range.
Yeah.
Or
You
you
know.
could
Yeah. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No, or you could trade services. It's like,
Uh,
say you're a great cover designer, maybe you could trade, say, hey, I'll do a cover for you for free, if you edit my book for free.
yeah. I here. You know what I did because I could not afford an editor. I did the first book I wrote is I sent it out t- to a couple people, including my wife, with instructions like to one person. I gave the book. I said, just read this cover to cover. Don't look for grammar. Don't look for anything else. Just I want your feedback on, yeah, this was really interesting, or this really sucked, and I wouldn't buy it. If
Yeah, right. Yeah.
yeah, kind of deal because I want that kind of input. And then other people I did, hey, read it for that editing, so to speak, grammar and whatnot. And then a friend of mine, who was the police chief of the University of Dayton, retired homicide sergeant from NYPD, his wife was a freshman English professor at the
Mm,
University of Dayton,
perfect. Perfect.
and her courses were all about the fundamentals of writing, and so she agreed to edit it from that perspective free of charge. So if
Nice.
I mean, if there's a college in your town, or somebody, attached to a university or even a community college that has those kind of basic writing classes, and they're the professor or instructor, um, reach out to them and ask them, hey, would you be willing to edit this book for me? And then I'll give you the credits in the book, on the
Yeah,
inside
absolutely.
cover as edited by, and you can claim that. So there's ways of doing it that is not going to cost you. Because I kind of tease people, why I wrote the first book because it was cathartic for me. It was I wanted to just share those stories and whatnot, and I sold a couple hundred copies, in the first few months, and now the royalties on them is I can go to the dollar menu, once in a while. Yeah, but I didn't write them to make money. I wrote them
Right.
to share my story and then hopefully have an impact on just one person. That was fine. And the second book, a couple of times I was like, oh man, I sold 20 copies yesterday, and I found out it was a book club
Perfect.
that
Yeah.
they wanted it, and so it's like you're giving back to humanity, sharing your story, and even in the fiction arena, because people love the fiction, is but I so agree with you on establish your why, so that keeps you focused on what you're doing and you don't get discouraged and want to quit, because it's so easy. And I would add to that, that's what one of the big things about Substack, the big benefit of being on that platform is that's a test market. You
Mm,
have all these other people who are writers, and so they're not judging you, kind of deal. You can put your poetry on there. You could whatever you want to do. Um, I sometimes I just drop sections of chapters out of my two prior books
Yeah.
just to get feedback and entertain people or whatever, and ask for feedback. And so have an avenue where, as you're writing, you can share stuff with people who don't know you, who aren't going to blow smoke up your butt because they're afraid of offending you, and share it and ask folks for how could I make this better, and
Yeah.
and then have some fun with it.
Absolutely. And one more thing, if you're a nonfiction writer, I tell you what, it's a great business card. You say
Yeah,
you want to get into public speaking, or whatever your thing is going to be. If you've written a book, it gives you like a higher tier. All of a sudden now you're more of an authority on whatever topic you're going to be
yeah,
talking about, or whatever service you're trying to sell, or whatever the case may be. And one trick, and this is just from I listened to Pat Flynn's podcast quite a bit. He was trying to push his latest book into the New York Times bestsellers list. So he's a very sought after public speaker. So instead of taking, usually he would get paid like, some ungodly amount of money
yeah,
to do this, like public speaking thing, different companies would hire him, et cetera, et cetera. He says, instead of that, I'm going to ask you to buy, like 20,000 copies of my book.
yeah, yeah,
Instead of paying me out of your pocket directly, I want you to buy my book. So
yeah.
that jacks up the numbers so you can make that whatever list that you're shooting for.
All right,
So
and
that's one
you get
way.
and then you get the royalties. You still
eh,
get some cash in your
You
pocket.
still get some money out of it. Yep.
Yeah,
You still get some cash out of it. But if you're aspiring to that different level, and again, like I said, you wrote a book. Now you're the authority on X, Y, or Z.
yeah.
So it's
Oh,
just
absolutely.
one more superpower that books can do for you.
Yeah, that's kind of why I started a podcast too.
Oh,
With
absolutely.
the same rationale behind that of getting your message out there, and it's not costing you money. I mean, it does a little bit to buy equipment and all that kind of
Not
stuff.
that much. Yeah.
It isn't. And I started, I don't know how long you've had yours, but I started in March, and I'm just about at 3,000 downloads in 14 countries and 6 continents, and
Yeah, it's amazing.
I have less than $500 invested in it,
Yep.
and I've already got trained. Somebody heard my podcast. I just came back yesterday. They heard the podcast and invited me to speak at their state conference on law enforcement
Yep.
training,
That's
and
what's going to happen.
yeah,
You get
it's
the
a platform.
discoverability. Yeah, the
Yeah,
discoverability of a podcast is amazing. Again, to go back to my Facebook group, I started that to promote 2 books. Okay, that blew up. I Okay, what else can I do to promote my books? It used to be blog tours. Now it's podcasts. I
yeah,
wanted to get on as many podcasts as possible. So I'm jumping on all these podcasts. I'm like, you know what? I could do this. I was a DJ
yeah,
back in college. I'm not afraid to be behind the
yeah.
mic or talk. And before I know it, I'm just like, I'm just going to do this to promote my book more or less. And damn, it's been 4 years and I'm in the top 2.5% of all podcasts out there right now.
That's awesome. I was a
It also,
DJ in college too.
yeah, it's right. Yeah, we talked about that.
We got the FM voice, going,
Yes, exactly. I have a face for radio, that's for
Yeah,
sure.
yeah.
Yeah. but Yeah, but it also opened doors for me. I've had 2 different television deals where I did, like, documentaries. I'm on television over in England and here, and none of that would have happened if I didn't have the podcast.
Yeah. And it's a lot of fun. You get to meet the
It
most
is.
fascinating people. I got to meet one of the team leaders on Block 75th Ranger Regiment that he was team leader on Black Hawk Down rescue. Uh,
Wow.
just got to meet and interview, and he was following me on LinkedIn for years, and we never met until I
Yeah.
did the podcast. Pete
Yep.
Fercelli, who blew the whistle on Fast and Furious with the
I had
ATF
him
gun
on my
running.
show. Yeah.
Yeah,
He's a
Pete's
great guy.
a great guy,
Very
and
much
you
so.
just get to meet all these fascinating people, and it's fun, and you
Yep.
enjoy life, and you enjoy giving back, and then you'll get a phone call from somebody that read your book, or somebody had read my book, one of my books, and I don't know who it was, but they knew the guy that was co-writing a book with James Patterson, and it was nonfiction. It's Walk the Blue Line,
Yeah, I
and
saw that. Yeah.
I get a phone call from this guy going, "Hey, you've been recommended for us to interview to be a part of this book, and I I made the grade, and there's a chapter in a James Patterson book." And, and that's just like all the crap that we go through as cops, and
Yeah. Yeah.
all the naysayers and people that hate you because of your uniform. It's rewarding in retirement, at least, to know, hey, people really do appreciate us, and
Absolutely.
they're appreciating us because we're putting ourselves out there authentically in books and in podcasts and in writing articles. So, if for our listeners, man, if you're out there, you're a writer, you want to be a writer, is go for it. And don't give a rat's behind what people say, or if you never you know have the quote unquote success of famous people. Who gives a crap? That's not why you're writing. You're out there to share your story and to impact people's lives. Then that makes it all worth it. So, any parting words, Pat, before we jump off, and then we're going to have to do another episode at some point in time where we're going to uh, have a Guinness and
Yeah. I'm
in
all for
front of
that.
us, and we can smack around politics and religion or some other stuff to just have a fun conversation like we're sitting in a pub.
Yeah, I'm all
But
for it.
any final thoughts or words you want to share? Or I'm pretty sure we got in copsandwriters.com, right? For
Yes.
contact. That's the kind of the clearinghouse to reach out to you. Other than
Correct.
that, parting thoughts or words.
I will take a quote from Jack Carr. I had him on my show, and I was shocked that I actually got him on my show. I met him in person, couldn't be nicer. I mean, he's a super, super busy guy. Here's this high speed Navy SEAL, yeah, best selling author, best selling, series on Prime. Just, his star is rising like crazy.
Yeah.
And I asked him the same thing, and he said, "This is what I tell my kids." And he says, "Never miss an opportunity to make somebody's day. Try to live your
Wow.
life like that." It could be as simple as letting somebody in. You're on the freeway and they're trying to get in, open a door for somebody, help a little old lady across the street, help a little old lady with her groceries, and say, "Hey, please don't pepper spray me. I'm being nice." Whatever the case may be, go out of your way to make somebody's day. If you can do that, I think it's a win.
Oh man, that is absolutely awesome advice. You ought to put that on a plaque, um, and and give it out free with one of your books.
I should. I should.
Yeah. Hey Pat, it was so much fun having you on. I never laugh as much as I do when I'm with another Irishman, and we can see the humor and stuff,
Oh, yes.
and have some fun. So, thanks for coming on, and for our listeners out there, thank you for joining us today. Be sure and give us some comments, like, share the podcast, and let's build this community of warrior servant leaders together. And as always, 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 strive to do the right thing at the right time, the right way, and for the right reasons. Love y'all, and see you next week.
Bye bye. Thank you.